Hi everyone, I'm Ferd and welcome to my video. Today I'm working on a generator. This one happens to be a Durastar 4000. It's a 4000 watt generator. Now the thing about this video is that it not only pertains to just this generator, but there could be up to 100 other different name brands that use the same identical setup as this one right here. That would include Black Max, Coleman, Champion, Honda, Generic, Sportsman, DeWalt, Husky. The list goes on and on and on. The only difference is going to be the colors that they use, the stickers they put on them. They may use a different frame. They may put wheels on them or a handle. But in reality, when you take all of that stuff off of it, they all look just like this. All the motors are going to be the same. The generator part of it could be different, but these engines are all the same. Now, to sort of prove my point, I've got a little picture slideshow for you. I've randomly picked out 5 different engines that are found on these generators. The most common one would be the one up in the left-hand corner. That's the Honda GX 200. That would be the same size CC engine that's on the Duramax that I'm working on. Here the pictures are all flipped around to show you the other side of these engines. And as you can see, every single one of them are the same. The gas tanks may be shaped a little different. They may have a different color on them. If you take a good look at it, they're all identical, down to the last bolt hole. Here's some bigger pictures for you, each one of them side by side with that Honda engine. This one's the Ironton, the Powerhouse, the Predator, and the Rhino. Now, since all these generators have the same motor on them, they all share the same problems. One of the biggest ones is what I'm working on in this video, and that's no compression. And I'm going to show you how to diagnose it. There's a couple of different ways you can check to see if the valves are bad in it. Sometimes you can just replace the valves or just do a simple valve grind on them. And sometimes you have to replace the heads. And I'll talk a lot more about that in this video coming up. So I hope you get a lot of information about it. I hope you find it interesting and enjoy the video. What I'm working on here is a Durastar generator, and these are all pretty much the same. This style that you see here, they just got different names on them. The problem is it doesn't run, and if you pull a rope on it, it just doesn't feel like it's got any compression at all. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull the plug out of this thing and do a compression test on it. Before I do that compression test, make sure this thing's getting spark. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but you can see it's getting a spark. So let me check the compression on it. All right, you can see there's no compression. So first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to take the valve cover off and see if maybe the valves just may need to be retightened on it. So let me get to that. All right, this is just a matter of 4 bolts, number 8s. That's off. This one feels okay. And that one feels okay. Everything seems to be working all right there. So what it looks like I'm going to have to do here is get the head off of it and see if maybe there's a burnt valve on it. Okay, I've taken it down this far. I removed the carburetor. I took the muffler off. It was just a matter of a few number 8s here and then 3 number 13s that held the muffler on here, and then the carburetor. If you get into this deep to fixing something like this, you should know how to take the carburetor off anyway, but it's just a matter of bolts. Take a lot of pictures, and what I'm going to show you here next is a little test to see if it's actually a valve leaking. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn off the lights and I'm going to shine a light into the intake port and the exhaust port. Okay, here's my light. So I'm putting it into the intake port and you can see light, so that's most likely the thing's leaking or the valve's open. But as I pull it, the light goes out, comes back on, light goes out. Okay, now I'm going to switch sides here, and I'm going to put it in the exhaust side. You can see light, pulling it, and I don't know if it's showing up on that camera or not, but you can see the light inside of there. Okay, I wasn't able to actually get the camera to pick it up. I was trying to show what I was doing to confirm my suspicions, but I took this little light and I shined it in the intake side with the lights out, pulled the rope, and I wasn't getting any light bleeding through it, just when the valve opened. Now on the exhaust side of it, when I pulled the rope, I could see light continuously the whole time. At one point it was really, really faint to where the camera just couldn't pick it up. You had to look down at an angle to see it shining through there, but it kind of confirms what I'm thinking here. Is this valve is burnt, and most likely I'll be able to get by with just a valve job on it. If not, I can find another valve and put it down in there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull the head off of it. I'm going to take off this throttle bracket, just set that over to the side. There's a little shroud on the bottom, and then there's 4 number 13 bolts, and I should be able to just pop this thing off of there. Okay, I got the shroud loose, took the bracket off, and I've laid it off to the side here from the top. I got all 4 of the head bolts out of it. I've loosened up the rocker arms. I'm going to pull push rods out of it so they don't fall down inside, and then it should come right off of there. Okay, we got the head over here on the bench. I'm going to go ahead and reseat both these valves if they're fixable, but the springs on these are so light that you can actually push down with your fingers, and we're going to release the little cap off of it. Let me get my finger under there, and you just slide it forward and it'll pop up out of there. So this is the exhaust side. I'm going to put that over here, and then we'll slide the valve out and give it a little inspection. And you can see there's a lot of carbon buildup around the edge and on the edge of the valve itself. That's what was holding it open. And then by rolling the thing, I could see over there. I had it on a flat surface. I could see that it's not bent. So I just need to clean that up and put some valve grinding compound on it and reseat it. We'll go ahead and get the second one out of there. This one don't have the little cap on it. Put that over there. And push that one out. And this one looks okay. Looks nice and shiny all around. But you can see a lot of carbon buildup on that too as well. So let me get these things cleaned up, and we'll reseat them back down in there. Okay, I didn't want to do any damage. There's a lot of carbon on there, and the wire brush isn't doing a very good job getting it all off of there, and I don't want to dig into that metal too much. So what I got here, this is a piece of 320 grit sandpaper, and I put a rubber hose around the tip of the valve so I don't damage it. I'm going to try to spin it, and I'm going to try to sand that off of there. That thing has a pretty good groove down in it. After what I've done, there's a pretty good sized groove cut down into the valve, and when I stick it back in there and put my light on it, there's light coming out of the two sides, and it's almost like this has been pushed in. It needs machined, and for what it's worth, this head's trashed. I'm gonna just gotta buy a new head for, I think I can get one for about $60, so I think I'm gonna do that. Okay, I've zoomed way in on this exhaust port, and you can see where it was making contact here at the top, and you can also see where the carbon buildup is around the outside edges where this thing was actually leaking. And if you look down inside, you'll see the valve guide is real thick over on this left-hand side, and it gets real thin over here on this right-hand side. So the valve was actually wobbling back and forth inside the valve guide, and that's what caused all the problems to begin with. These things are all fixable, but it's expensive to do it that way compared to buying a whole new head for $30. So I got a new head. We're going to switch everything over and put a new head on this thing and get it running. A lot of these generators, they're all the same. If I haven't mentioned it, they use what I call a Honda clone engine. And it's pretty much the same thing as what you'll find on the Honda brands, which this one is the Durastar, Black Max, all different kinds of them that use these particular engines for their generators. But they want you to go to their company website and buy their parts. You would spend, if you could get this part from them, you would spend a couple of $100. And like I said, it's a Honda clone. So you can look up online. This one here is a 7 they call it a 7 horsepower, which in reality is false because it's a 6.5, and it's actually a GX 200 Honda motor, and without the Honda markings on it. So that would be like 6.5 horsepower. When you're looking for parts for a 7 horsepower, you want to look for the GX 200. Here's the engine kit that I got for it. As you can see, that's it right there. Same identical. And with the valve cover gasket, this big one right here, there it is. So I went online, I looked up the GX 200. If your engine's a little smaller, like a 3 horsepower, you're going to be looking at like the 160, or somewhere around that range, and order your head for that. Here's the two together. You can see that they're pretty much the same. You got the same exhaust port. Spark plugs all line up the same way. This is the identical head that is on that generator over there. And we're going to look at the back side of it, and you can see that this is it. This is the head, and it didn't come from Durastar. So now what we need to do is we need to prep this thing and get it ready to put on there. Now, something you want to note when you order one of these heads, a lot of them don't come with a head gasket for some reason. They'll come with a new valve cover and a new valve cover gasket. And you can see it fits just the same on this one as that one. So they sent me a new one. I'm going to use the new one, but order you at least the head gasket. But I recommend the whole kit because you want to replace the exhaust and the intake. I don't think you're going to want to tear that motor apart and do all of that, but they don't come with head gaskets, and this one does. That kit cost me about $8. The head cost me $30. I need the studs out of the old head to put in a new one for the exhaust and the intake. These are the 2 nuts off of the exhaust system that hold it on there, and I'm going to put them both on there together. I'm holding on to the back one, and I want to tighten this top one down to it, like that. Pretty good. And then get on the back, the nut on the back, and we're going to just see if we can turn this whole thing out, and hopefully it'll come out. And it's not. This one's turning. Tighten it down some more. Looks like it's moving a little bit. There we go. Okay, that stud's out. I need my bolts off of there, so we'll put that one on there and just loosen the 2 bolts up from each other. There we go. Working on this one here, and it's on there pretty tight, so that one's on there. So we're gonna have to try the vice grips. There we go. I'm ready to put this back together. I got the old gasket cleaned off of it. This thing looks like it filled up with oil. I could see oil all the way to the top here. That thing is plumb full of oil, clear up to here. So something tells me that there's a carburetor problem too. This thing's filled up with gasoline. I'm gonna drain the oil out of this thing and then get the head back on it, and then I'll address that issue after I get that done. I got the oil drained out of it. I got the carburetor over there soaking, and I'm going to put a kit in it. Evidently it got stuck, leaked all the gas down into the crankcase, filled it up. But that wasn't the main issue. The first thing I'm going to do though, I'm going to put these little guide pins back in. They went down here on the bottom. I used a razor blade and scraped all the old gasket off, and then I scraped the carbon off of the top of the piston so no big chunks come off of it and get hung up inside the valves on the way out. And used some brake cleaning and cleaned it up. So I'll put our new head gasket on there. Got our new head. I'll set that on there. Get our head bolt started in there. All right, we'll torque these down. Let's put our valves in, or our push rods. One there. And there. And I'll put a little bit of assembly lube in here. And there's a little cap on the exhaust one over here. Just be careful you don't lose that thing. It can fall out on you. Ready to set the valves on these. And on this Honda motor, the GX 160s, 200s, 360s, I believe they're all the same. We're going to go 6 thousandths on the intake, which is 15 millimeter, and then 20 millimeter, which is 8 thousandths on the exhaust side of it. Need a number 13 and a number 10. And you've probably seen this done a million times before. Got it on piston still up top dead center, but I'm not really for sure if it's on the exhaust or the intake stroke. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these adjusted pretty close, and then we'll come back and we'll flip it around till the piston comes back up again and recheck it. I got the valves adjusted on it. I've put this shroud back up on it, and I'm ready to start assembling everything else. This is a little lever for your governor, and this should float freely. There's a spring that goes on it on this side of it over here, and this one was pretty well jammed up. So while my carburetor was over there soaking, I threw this thing down in there and I got it freed up, and I took some never sees and put it around there and took a blowgun and blew it down in there to try to keep the thing from corroding up again. But anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. Hook the spring to it right here. And then this is going to go up above on the head right there. And this screw here is kind of hard to get in there, so we'll do this one first. Especially with the spring already on there. You can put this on and then stretch that spring out and put it on there if you want, but I'm going to try it the hard way. Okay, I got it on there. It didn't take me that long. I went ahead and cut through it so you didn't have to watch me cuss and bicker or whatever, but that's on there. Go ahead and put our muffler back on. Spark plug with this carburetor back on there and fill it with oil, and then we'll put the gas tank on, see if it'll fire up. All right, we're going to put the carburetor on it. Got a gasket. This is a new one that came with my gasket set. Got this little plastic piece. And then this is your path for your spark plug wire there. And then we got another gasket. And then we got our carburetor. And we're going to hook our linkage to it and then slide it right on there like that. Out here on the other side, you've got a spring that's on the linkage right here, and that hooks right there. And we'll slide that on there. There's a breather housing. On the back side of this thing, there's like a metal gasket. It's got some rubber on it. Make sure all the air holes line up. The screw that I just took out of here is going to go through there and attach it. This goes back up to the gas tank. It's a breather, if you want to call it that. Two nuts go right here. And I'll tighten them down. And then over here, right in here, is where our fuel line hooks up. It's going to drop down out of the gas tank right around this area here. So I'm going to put a new piece of hose on it, and it's going to go up to the gas tank there. And let's see if this thing will fire up. Turn on the gas. Make sure that's on. Give it some choke. And there it is, back up and running. Well, that was sort of a long video, but thanks for sticking it out. I hope that this helps you somehow if you have any of these name brands out there. You can also see how easy it is to diagnose the problem and just start digging right into it. In actual time, it took me about 10 minutes to figure this thing out. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to see more videos in the future, hit the notification bell. Every view helps my channel. And if you're working on one of these, have fun.